People now it's working.
It's working, right? Okay.
Yes, bro.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Jnanatimirandasya Gananjana Shalakayam Chaksunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Manubhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadam Tikam Mandeham Shri Guru Shivata Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Shrilupam Sagaratam Saganaragunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Ilada Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopishra Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namustute Tapta Kanchana Golangira Devrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Shute Devi Pranamami Hari Priya Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namah Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutare Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashatya Dishatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadar Shvasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Prabhupada ki
So,
jai.
thank you so much, Prabhu. So, who remembers what verse we left?
I was not there. I wasn't there. Sorry.
Yes, Prabhu, I'm trying to find it. So, when did we last time read Bhagavad Gita? Maybe 12th? What is this? Oh, this is Rishopanishad. 14? Again, Sri Upanishad. Oh, I closed it. I think 15 is Istagoshti, then 11. It must be 11. Ribu, we found it. So page number will be 1577. No, 78. Anam generosity Ishvara. 1579. Oh, what did I do? Is this? Okay, we continue from here. Who wants to read? Rahul Prabhu or Gaura Shakti Prabhu?
I can start.
Yes, Prabhu. Hare Krishna, Rahul Prabhu, Danda Pranam, Jai Shri Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna, Lord Prabhu, please accept my humble obeisances or Guru Srila Prabhupada. 1 minute. Rishigolashya vanityam asya karma swabhavacham paricharyatmakam karma shudra shyapi swabhavacham rishi ploughing go cow raksha protection vanityam trade Vaishya karma duty Swabhavajam, born of his own nature, Paricharya, service, Atmakam, nature, karma, duty, Shudrasya, of the Shudra, Api also, Swabhavajam, born of his own nature. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai.
Yeah.
Farming, cattle raising, and business are the qualities of work for the Vaishyas. And for the Shudra, there is labor and service to others. Sve sve karmanya bitlatham samsiddhim labate naraham swakarma nilatha siddhim yatha vindati tachlinu. Synonyms: Sve on, karmani in work, abhirataha following, samsiddhim perfection, bhate achieves, naraha a man, swakarma by his own duty, nirataha engage, siddhim perfection, yata as, vindati attains, that shlinu listen. Translation: by following his qualities of work, every man can become perfect. Now, please hear from me how this can be done. Text 46. Yatha pavrittir bhutanam yata salvamidam tatam swakarmanatam abhyarcham siddhim vindati manavaham. Yataha, from whom, pravritti, emanation, bhutanam, of all living entities, yena, by whom, sarvam, all, idam, this, tatam, is pervaded, swakarmana, in his own duties, tam, him, abhyachya, by worshipping, siddhim, perfection, vindati, achieve, manava, a man. Translation: by worship of the Lord, who is the source of all beings and who is all-pervading, man can, in the performance of his own duty, attain perfection. Purport: as stated in 15th chapter, all living beings are fragmented parts and parcel of the Supreme Lord. As such, the Supreme Lord is the beginning of all living entities. This is confirmed in the Vedanta Sutra, Janmatyasya Yattaha. The Supreme Lord is therefore the beginning of life of every living entity, and the Supreme Lord, by his own, there was something right, by his true energies, his external energy and internal energy, is all-pervading. Therefore, one should worship the Supreme Lord with his energies. Generally, the Vaishnava devotees worship the Supreme Lord with his internal energy. His external energy is a perverted reflection of the internal energy. The external energy is the background, but the Supreme Lord, by the expansion of his plenary portion, as Paramatma, is situated everywhere. He is the supersoul of all demigod, all human beings, all animals, everywhere. One should therefore know that as part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, it is his duty to render service unto the Supreme. Everyone should be engaged in devotional service to the Lord in full Krishna consciousness. That is recommended in this verse. Everyone should think that he is engaged in a particular type of occupation by Rishikesha, the master of the senses, and by the result of the work in which one is engaged, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Shri Krishna, should be worshipped. If one think always in this way, in full Krishna consciousness, then by the grace of the Lord, he becomes fully aware of everything. That is the perfection of life. The Lord says in Bhagavad Gita, Tasamaham samudalta. The Supreme Lord Himself takes charge of delivering such a devotee. That is the highest perfection of life. In whatever occupation one may engage, if he serves the Supreme Lord, he will achieve the highest perfection. Text 47. Shleyam swadharmo vigunam paladalmatsvanushtitat swabhavaniyattam karma kulvam natnoti kilbisham. Shleyan, bitte, swadharma, one's own occupation, viguna, imperfectly performed, paladalmat, another's occupation, swanushtitat, perfectly done, swabhava niyatam, prescribed duties according to one's nature, karma, work, kulvan, performing, na, never, apnoti, achieve, kilbisham, sinful reaction. Translation: it is better to engage in one's own occupation, even though one may perform it imperfectly, than to accept another's occupation and perform it perfectly. Prescribed duties according to one's nature are never affected by sinful reactions. Purport: one's occupational duties is prescribed in Bhagavad Gita. As already discussed in previous verse, the duties of a Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra are prescribed according to the particular modes of nature. One should not imitate another's duties. A man who is by nature attracted to the kind of work done by Shudra should not artificially claim himself to be a Brahmana, although he may be born into a Brahmana family. In this way, one should work according to his own nature. No work is abominable if performed in the service of the Supreme Lord. The occupational duty of a Brahmana is certainly in the mode of goodness, but if a person is not by nature in the mode of goodness, he should not imitate the occupational duty of a Brahmana. For a Kshatriya or administrator, there are so many abominable things. A Kshatriya has to be violent, to kill his enemies. And sometimes a Kshatriya has to tell lies for the sake of diplomacy. Such violence and duplicity accompany political affairs. But Kshatriya is not supposed to give up his occupational duties and try to perform the duty of a Brahmana. One should act to satisfy the Supreme Lord. For example, Arjuna was a Kshatriya. He was hesitating to fight the other party, but if such fighting is performed for the sake of Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, there need be no fear of degradation. In the business field also, sometimes a merchant has to tell so many lies to make a profit. If he does not do so, there can be no profit. Sometimes a merchant said, "Oh, my dear customer, for you I am making no profit." But one should know that without profit, the merchant cannot exist. Therefore, it should be taken as a simple lie if a merchant says that he is not making profit. But the merchant should not think that because he is engaged in an occupational occupation in which the telling of life is compulsory, he should give up his profession and pursue the profession of a brahmana. That is not recommended. Whether one is a Kshatriya, a Vaishya, or Shudra doesn't matter. If he serves by his work the Supreme Personality of Godhead, even Brahmana, who perform different types of sacrifice, sometimes must kill animals because sometimes animals are sacrificed in such ceremonies. Similarly, if a Kshatriya engaged in his own occupation kills an enemy, there is no sin incurred. In the third chapter, this matter have been clearly and elaborately explained. Every man should work for the purpose of yagya or for Vishnu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Anything done for personal sense gratification is a cause of bondage. The conclusion is that everyone should be engaged according to the particular modes of nature he has acquired, and he should decide to work only to serve the supreme cause of the Supreme Lord. Text 48. Sahajam karma kanteya sadosham apinachajet sarvalamba hidushenam tu menagir ivavritaham sahajam born simultaneously. Karma work, Kantiya, O son of Kunti, Sadosham without, Api also, na never, Chajet, to be given up, Salva Alambaha, any venture. He is certainly Doshina without, Dumena with smoke, Agni, fire, Iva, as Avlitaha covered. Translation. Every endeavor is covered by some sort of thought, just as fire is covered by smoke. Therefore, one should not give up the work which is born of his nature, O son of Kunti, even if such work is full of fault. Purport. In conditional life, all work is contaminated by the material modes of nature. If even if one is Brahmana, he has to perform sacrifice in which animal killing is necessary. Similarly, a Kshatriya, however pious he may be, has to fight enemies. He cannot avoid it. Similarly, a merchant, however pious he may be, must sometimes hide his profit to stay in business, or he may sometimes have to do business on the black market. These things are necessary, one cannot avoid them. Similarly, even though a man is a Shudra serving a bad master, he has to carry out the order of the master, even though it should not be done. Despite these flaws, one should continue to carry out his prescribed duty, for they are born out of his own nature. A very nice example is given in rain. Although fire is pure, still there is smoke. Yet smoke does not make the fire impure. Even though there is smoke in the fire, fire is still considered to be the purest of all the elements. If one preferred to give up all the work of a Kshatriya and take up the occupation of Brahmana, he is not assured that in the occupation of Brahmana there are not unpleasant duties. One may then conclude that in the material world no one can be completely free from the contamination of material nature. This example of fire and smoke is very appropriate in this connection. When in winter time one takes a stone from the fire, sometimes smoke disturbs the eye and other part of the body. But still one must make use of the fire despite disturbing condition. Similarly, one should not give up his natural occupation because there are some disturbing elements. Right? One should be determined to serve the Supreme Lord by his occupational the duty in Krishna consciousness. That is the perfectional point. When a particular type of occupation is performed for the satisfaction of the Supreme Lord, all the defects in that particular occupation are purified. When the result of work are purified, when connected with devotional service, one becomes perfect in seeing the self within, and that is self realization. Thank you very much. I can, if someone else wants to read, please carry on. Thank you very much. Jai Shri Prabhupada.
Nibo, thank you so much, Prabhu. Hare Krishna, Prasanna Prabhu, Dandar Pram, Jai Shri Prabhupada. If you want to read, you can read, Prabhu, or Rahul Prabhu also.
Hare Krishna Prasanna Prabhu, please accept my obeisances. O Jai Shri Prabhupada.
I'll read, Prabhu.
Nibo, thank you, Prabhu.
असक्ता बुद्धि सर्वत्र जीतात्म विगतस्य नैष्कर्म्य सिद्धिं परमं सन्न्यासनाधिगच्छति. Asakta buddhi, unattached intelligence, sarvatra, everywhere. Jita atma, control of the mind. Vigata supra, without material desires. Naiskarmya siddhim, perfection of non-reaction. Paramam, supreme. Sannyasana, by the renounced order of life. Adhigachati, attains. Translation. One can obtain the results of renunciation simply by self-control and by becoming unattached to material things and disregarding material enjoyments. That is the highest perfectional stage of renunciation. Purport. Real renunciation means that one should always think himself part and parcel of Supreme Lord. Therefore, he has no right to enjoy the results of his work. Since he is part and parcel of Supreme Lord, the results of his work must be enjoyed by the Supreme Lord. This is actually Krishna consciousness. The person acting in Krishna consciousness is really a sannyasi. One renounced order of life. By such mentality, one is satisfied because he is actually acting for the Supreme, thus he is not attached to anything material. He becomes accustomed to not taking pleasure in anything beyond the transcendental happiness derived from the service of the Lord. A sannyasi is supposed to be free from the reactions of his past activities. But a person who is in Krishna consciousness automatically attains this perfection without even accepting the so called order of renunciation. This state of mind is called Yoga Rudha, or the perfectional state of yoga, as confirmed in the third chapter. Yastivi Atma Ratir Evasayat. One who is satisfied in himself has no fear of any kind of reaction from his activity. Text 50. Siddhim Prapto Yata Brahma Tata Pitoti Dimoda me Samyasenaiva Kaunte Nisthanyanasya Yapara. Siddhim, perfection. Prapta, achieving. Yata, as. Brahma, the supreme. Tatta, so. Apnoti, achieves. Nibodo, try to understand. Me, from me. Samasena, summarily. Eva, certainly. Kaunte, O son of Kunti. Nista, stage. Jnanasya, of knowledge. Ya, which. Para, transcendental. Translation. O son of Kunti, learn from me in brief how can one attain to the supreme perfectional stage, Brahman, by acting in the way which I shall now summarize. Purport. The Lord describes for Arjuna how one can achieve the highest perfectional stage simply by being engaged in his occupational duty, performing that duty for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One attains the supreme stage of Brahman simply by renouncing the result of his work for the satisfaction of the Supreme Lord. That is the process of self realization. Actual perfection of knowledge is in attaining pure Krishna consciousness that is described in the following verses. Text 51 to 53. Buddhya Visuddhyayo Yukto. Tirhatam Manam Nyayamacha Saptatin Visyasam Tyagtva Raga Devasuva Vyadasuva Cha Vivikita Sevi Lak Asi Yatavak Kaya Manasa Dhyana Yoga Paro Nityam. Vairagyam Samuparishita. Ahankaram Balam Darpam Kamam Krodam Parigraham Vimuchya Nirmama Santo Brahma Bhuyaye Kalpate. Buddhya by the intelligence. Visuddhaya fully purified. Yukta such. Engagement. Dhyati determination. Atmanam self. Nyayama Nyamya regulated. Sa also. Sabuddin the sense of objects such as sound etc. Visayan sense objects. Tyakva, giving up. Raga, attachments. Dvesu, hatred. Vira, disfear, having laid aside. Cha, always, also. Vivikta Sevi, living in a secluded place. Lagu Ast, eating a small quantity. Yadavak, control of speech. Kaya, body. Manasa, control of the mind. Jnana Yoga Para, always absorbed in trance. Nityam, 24 hours a day. Vairagyam, detachment. Samuprasa, taken shelter of Ahangaram, false ego. Balam, false strength. Darbam, false pride. Kamam, lust. Krodham, anger. Parigraham, accept of material things. Vimuchya, being delivered. Nirmama, without proprietorship. Santa, peaceful. Brahma Yoya, to become self realized. Kalpate is understood. Translation. Being purified by intelligence and controlling the mind with determination, giving up the objects of sense gratification, being freed from attachment and hatred, one who lives in a secluded place, who eats little, and who controls the body and the tongue, and is always in trance and is detached, without who is without false ego, false strength, false pride, lust, anger, and who does not accept material things. Such a person is certainly elevated to the position of self realization. Purport. When one is purified by knowledge, he keeps himself in the mode of goodness. Thus, one becomes the controller of the mind and is always in trance. Because he is not attached to the objects of sense gratification, he does not eat more than what he requires, and he controls the activities of his body and mind. He has no false ego because he does not accept the body as himself. Nor has he a desire to make the body fat and strong by accepting so many material things, because he has no bodily concept of life. He is not falsely proud. He is satisfied with everything that is offered to him by the grace of Lord, and is never angry in the absence of sense gratification, nor does he endeavor to acquire sense objects. Thus, when he is completely free from all false ego, he becomes non attached to all material things. And that is the stage of self realization of Brahman. That stage is called Brahma Bhuta stage. When one is free from material conception of life, he becomes peaceful and cannot be agitated. Text 54. ब्रह्मभूत प्रसन्नम ना सोसाति ना कंसति समा सर्वेषु भूतेषु मत भक्तिम लप्ते param. Brahmabhuta, being one with the absolute. Prasanna Atma, fully joyful. Na, never. Society, na, laments. Na, never. Kangsati, desires. Sama, equally disposed. Sarvesu, all. Bhutesu, living entity. Mat Bhaktim, my devotional service. Labate, gains. Param, transcendental. Translation. One who is thus transcendently situated at once realizes the supreme Brahman. He never laments nor desires to have anything. He is equally disposed to every living entity in that state. He attends pure devotional service unto me. Purport. To the impersonalist, achieving the Brahma Bhuta stage, becoming one with Absolute, is the last word. But for the personalist or pure devotee, one has to go still further to become engaged in pure devotional service. This means that one who is engaged in pure devotional service to the Supreme Lord is already in a state of liberation, called Brahma Bhuta oneness with Absolute. Without being one with the Supreme, the Absolute, one cannot render service unto Him. In the Absolute conception, there is no difference between the served and the servitor. Yet the distinction is there. in a higher spiritual sense. In the material concept of life, when one works for sense gratification, there is misery. But in the absolute world, when one is engaged in pure devotional service, there is no misery. The devotee in Krishna consciousness has nothing to lament or desire. Since God is full, a living entity who is engaged in God's service in Krishna consciousness becomes also full in himself. He is just like a river cleansed of all dirty water because a pure devotee has no thought other than Krishna. He is naturally always joyful. He does not lament for any material loss or gain because he is full in service of the Lord. He has no desire for material enjoyment because he knows that every living entity is fragmental part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, and therefore eternally a servant he does not see in the material world, some as higher and some as lower. Higher and lower positions are ephemeral, and a devotee has nothing to do with ephemeral appearances or disappearances. For him, stone and gold are of equal value. This is Brahma Bhuta stage. And this stage is attained very easily by the pure devotee. In that stage of existence, the idea of becoming one with the Supreme Brahman and annihilating one's individuality becomes hellish. And the idea of attaining the heavenly kingdom becomes phantasmagoria. And the senses are like broken serpent's teeth. As there is no fear of serpent with broken teeth, so there is no fear from the senses when they are automatically controlled. The world is miserable for the materially infected person, but for a devotee, the entire world is as good as Vaikunta or the spiritual sky. The highest personality in this material universe is no more significant than an ant for the devotee. Such a stage can be achieved by the mercy of Lord Chaitanya, who preached pure devotional service in this age. Text 55. Bhaktiyamam abhijanadi yavan yas sasmi tatvata tato mam tatvato jnanatva visate tad anandataram bhaktiya by pure devotional service. Mam, me, abhijanati, one can know, yavan, as much as, yasa, as me, as I am. Tatvata, in truth, tata, thereafter, mam, me, tatvata, by truth, jnatva, knowing, visate, entrance, tat, thereafter, anantaram, after. Translation. One can understand the Supreme Personality as he is only by devotional service. And when one is in full consciousness of the Supreme Lord by such devotion, he can enter into the kingdom of God. Purport. The Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna and his plenary portions cannot be understood by mental speculation, nor by the non-devotees. If anyone wants to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he has to take pure devotional service and under the guidance of a pure devotee, otherwise the truth of the Supreme Personality of Godhead will always be hidden. He is already stated, Naham Prakasa, that he is not revealed to everyone. Everyone cannot understand God erudite, simply by erudite scholarship or mental speculation. Only one who is actually engaged in Krishna consciousness and devotional service can understand what Krishna is. University degrees are not helpful. One who is fully conversant with the Krishna science becomes eligible to enter into spiritual kingdom, the abode of Krishna. Becoming Brahman does not mean that one loses his identity. Devotional service is there, and as long as devotional service exists, there must be God. The devotee and the process of devotional service, the such knowledge is never vanquished even after celebration. Liberation involves getting free from the concept of material life in spiritual life. The same distinction is there. The same individuality is there, but in pure Krishna consciousness, one should not misunderstand that the word Visate enters into me, suppose the monist theory that one becomes homogeneous with the impersonal Brahman. No, Visate means that one can enter into the abode of the Supreme Lord in his individuality to engage in his association and render service to him. For instance, a green bird enters a green tea tree, not to become one with the tree, but to enjoy the fruits of the tree. Impersonalists generally give the example of a river flowing into the ocean and merging. This may be a source of happiness for the impersonalist, but the personalist keeps his personal individuality, like an aquatic in the ocean. We find so many living entities within the ocean. If we go deep, surface acquaintance with the ocean is not sufficient. One must have complete knowledge of aquatics living in the ocean depths. Because of his pure devotional service, a devotee can understand the transcendental qualities and the opulences of the Supreme Lord in truth. As it is stated in the 11th chapter, only by devotional service can one understand the same is confirmed here. One can understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead by devotional service and enter into his kingdom. After attainment of Brahma Bhuta stage of freedom from material conceptions, devotional service begins by one's hearing about the Lord. When one hears about the Supreme Lord, automatically the Brahma Bhuta stage develops, and material contamination, greediness, and lust for sense enjoyment disappears. As lust and desires disappear from the heart of a devotee, he becomes more attached to the service of the Lord, and by such attachment, he becomes free from material contamination. In that state of life, he can understand the Supreme Lord. This is the statement of Srimad Bhagavatam also. Also, after liberation, the process of bhakti or transcendental service continues. The Vedanta Sutra confirms this. Apyana tatrapi he ristam. This means after liberation, the process of devotional service continues. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, the real devotional liberation is defined as the reinstatement of the living entity in his own identity, his own constitutional position. The constitutional position is already explained. Every living entity is the part and parcel, fragmented portion of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, his constitutional position is to serve. After liberation, this service is never stopped. Actual liberation is getting free from misconceptions of life. Text 56. Sarva karmani api sada kurvana mad vyapasriyaya mat prasad avanoti saswadam padam avyam. Sarva, all, karmani, actors, activities, api, although, sada, always, kurvana, performing, mat, under, my, vyapasriyaya, protection, mat, my, prasadat, mercy, avapnoti, achieves, saswadam, eternal, padam, abode, avyayam. Translation. Though engaged in all kinds of activities, my devotee under my protection reaches the eternal and imperishable abode by my grace. Purport. The word mat vyaprasya means under the protection of the Supreme Lord to be free from the material contamination. A pure devotee acts under the direction of the Supreme Lord or his representative, the spiritual master. There is no time limitation for a pure devotee. He is always 24 hours, 100% engaged in activities under the direction of Supreme Lord. To a devotee who is thus engaged in Krishna consciousness, the Lord is very, very kind. In spite of all difficulties, he is eventually placed in the transcendental abode, or Krishna Loka. He is guaranteed entrance there. There is no doubt about it. In that supreme abode, there is no change. Everything is eternal. Yes. Imperishable and full of knowledge. Text 57. Setasa sarva karmani mai sanyasya matpara buddhi yogam upasiryatya matsita satatam bhava. Satasa, by intelligence. Sarva karmani, all kinds of activities. Mai, unto me. Sanyasya, giving up. Matpraha, para, my protection. Buddhi yogam, devotional activities. Upsariyitya, taking shelter of. Matsita, consciousness. Satatam, 24 hours a day. Bhava, just become. Translation. In all activities, just depend upon me and work always under my protection. In such devotional service, be fully conscious of me. Purport. When one acts in Krishna consciousness, he does not act as the master of the world. Just like a servant, one should act fully under the direction of the Supreme Lord. A servant has no individual independence, he acts only on the order of the master. A servant acting on behalf of the Supreme Master has no affection for profit and loss. He simply discharges his duty faithfully in terms of the order of the Lord. Now, one may argue that Arjuna was acting under the personal direction of Krishna, but when Krishna is not present, however, how should one act? If one acts according to the direction of Krishna in this book, as well as the under the guidance of representative of Krishna, then the result will be the same. The Sanskrit word matpara is very important in this verse. It indicates that one has no goal in life save and except acting in Krishna consciousness just to satisfy Krishna. And while working in that way, one should think of only Krishna. I have been appointed to discharge this particular duty by Krishna. While acting in such way, one naturally has to think of Krishna. This is perfect Krishna consciousness. One should, however, note that after doing something whimsically, he should not offer the result to the Supreme Lord. That sort of duty is not in the devotional service of Krishna consciousness. One should act according to the order of Krishna. This is very important point that order of Krishna comes through disciplic succession from the bona fide spiritual master. Therefore, the spiritual master's order should be taken as the prime duty of life. If one gets a bona fide spiritual master and acts according to his direction, then his perfection of life in Krishna consciousness is guaranteed. Text 58. Maksita sarva durgani mat prasadat tarsiyasi atasetvam ahankaran nasrosyasi vinaksyasi mat my sita consciousness sarva all durgani impediments mat my prasadat my mercy tarisyasi you will overcome ata therefore set if tvam you ahankarat by false ego na not sociasi do not hear vinanksiasi then lose yourself. Translations. If you become conscious of me, you will pass over all the obstacles of conditional life by my grace. If, however, you do not work in such consciousness but act through false ego, not hearing me, you will be lost. Purport. A person in full Krishna consciousness is not unduly anxious to execute the duties of his existence. The foolish cannot understand this great freedom from all anxiety. For one who acts in Krishna consciousness, the Lord becomes the most intimate friend. He always looks after his friend's comfort and he gives himself to his friend. Who is so devoted, engaged, working 24 hours a day to please the Lord? Therefore, no one should be carried away by the false ego of bodily concept of life. One should not falsely think himself independent of the laws of material nature or free to act. He is already under strict material liberated, free from the material perplexities. One should not very carefully that one who is not active in Krishna consciousness is losing himself in the material whirlpool, in the ocean of birth and death. No conditioned soul actually knows what is to be done and what is not to be done. But a person who acts in Krishna consciousness is free to act because everything is prompted by Krishna from within and confirmed by the spiritual master. Text 59. Yat ahankaram asyati nas yotsya iti manyasa mityasa vyasyata practice tvam niyoksyati. Yat, therefore, ahankaram, false ego, astyati, taking shelter, na, not, yotsya, shall fight, iti, thus, manyase, think, mithya esa, this is all false, vyasyasa, your determination, prakrit, material nature, tvam, you, nyoksyati, will engage you. Translation. If you do not act according to my direction and do not fight, then you will be falsely directed. By your nature, you will have to be engaged in warfare. Purport. Arjuna was a military man and born of the nature of the Kshatriya. Therefore, his natural duty was to fight, but due to false ego, he was fearing that by killing his teacher, grandfather, and friends, there would be sinful reactions. Actually, he was considering himself master of his actions, as if he were directing the good and bad results of such work. He forgot that the Supreme Personality of Godhead was present there, instructing him to fight. That is the forgetfulness of the conditioned soul. The Supreme Personality gives directions as to what is good and what is bad. And one simply has to act in Krishna consciousness to attain the perfection of life. No one can ascertain his destiny as the Supreme Lord can. Therefore, the best course is to take direction from the Supreme Lord and act. No one should neglect the order of Supreme Personality of Godhead or the order of Spiritual Master, who is the representative of God. One should act unhesitatingly to execute the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead that will keep him safe under all circumstances. Text 60. Swabha jena kaunteye nibaddada swena karmana kartum nechasi yan mohat karisyasi avasopitat. Swabha jena, by one's own nature. Kaunte, O son of Kunti. Nipatta, condition. Svena, by one's own. Karmana, activities. Kartum, to do. Na, not. Ichasi, like. Yat, that. Mohat, by illusion. Karisyasi, you will act. You will act. Avasa, imperceptibility. Api, even. That, that. Translation. Under illusion, you are now declining to act according to my direction, but compelled by your own nature. You will act all the same, O son of Kunti. Purport. If one refuses to act under the direction of the Supreme Lord, then he is compelled to act by the modes in which he is situated. Everyone is under the spell of a particular combination of the modes of nature and is acting in that way. But anyone who voluntarily engages himself under the direction of Supreme Lord becomes glorious. Text 61. Does anyone want to read or shall I continue?
Hare Krishna, Lebang Prabhu and Pranjal Prabhu Dandar Pranam Jai Shri Prabhupada. Yes, Prabhu, if no one is reading, you can continue.
Okay. Ishvara Sarvabhutanam Hirtisya Arjuna Distati Brahmayam Sarvabhutani Yantra Ruddhani Mayaya. Ishvara, the Supreme Lord, Sarvabhutanam, of all living entities. Hirdise, in the location of the heart. Arjuna, O Arjuna. Tistati, resides. Brahmayan, causing to travel. Sarvabhutani, all living entities. Yantra, machine. Ardhani, being so placed. Mayaya, under the spell of material energy. Translation. The Supreme Lord is situated in everyone's heart, O Arjuna, and is directing the wanderings of all living entities who are seated as on a machine made of the material energy. Purport. Arjuna was not the supreme knower, and his decision to fight or not to fight was confined to his limited discretion. Lord Krishna instructed that the individual is not all in all. The supreme personality of Godhead, or he himself, Krishna, the localized supersoul, sits in the heart directing the living being. After changing bodies, the living entity forgets his past deeds, but the supersoul, as the knower of the past, present, and future, remains the witness of all his activities. Therefore, all the activities of living entities are directed by the supersoul. The living entity gets what he deserves and is carried by the material body, which is carried in the material energy under the direction of the supersoul. As soon as a living entity is placed in particular type of body, he has to work under the spell of that bodily situation. A person seated in high speed motor car goes faster than one seated in slower car. Though the living entities, the drivers, may be the same, similarly, by the order of Supreme Soul, material nature fashions a particular type of body to a particular type of living entity to work according to his past desires. The living entity is not independent. One should not think himself independent of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The individual is always under his control. Therefore, his duty is to surrender, and that is the injection of the next verse. Text 62. Tam eva saranam gaccha sarva bhavanya bharata tat prasadat param sandhim sthanam prapsyasi sasvadam. Tam, unto him. Eva, certainly. Saranam, surrender. Gaccha, go. Sarva bhavena, in all respects. Bharata, O son of Bharata. Tat prasadat, by his grace. Param, transcendental. Satyam, peace. Statnam, abode. Prapsyasi, you will get. Sasvadam, eternal. Translation. Ocean of Bharata. Surrender unto him utterly. By his grace, you will attain transcendental peace and the supreme and eternal abode. Purport. A living entity should therefore surrender unto the supreme personality of Godhead who is situated in everyone's heart, and that will relieve him from all kinds of miseries of this material existence. By such surrender, one will not be only be released from all miseries in this life, but at the end he will reach the supreme God. The transcendental world is described in the Vedic literature as Tat Vishnu Paramam Padam. Since all of creation is kingdom of God, everything material is actually spiritual. But Paramam Padam is specifically refers to the eternal God, which is called the spiritual sky or Vaigunda. In the 15th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, it is stated, Sarvyasya Saham Hirdi Sanni Vista. The Lord is seated in everyone's heart. So there is recommendation that one should surrender unto him under the super soul visiting within means that one should surrender under the supreme of personality of Godhead, Krishna. Krishna has already been accepted by Arjuna as the supreme. He was accepted in the 10th chapter as Param Brahma, Param Dhamma. Has accepted Krishna as the supreme personality of Godhead and the supreme abode of all living entities. Not only because of his personal experience, but also because of the evidence of great authorities like Narada, Asita, Devala, and Vyasa. Text 63. Iti te jnananam akyatam guhyataram maya Vimnesyatyat assasana jatachasi tatakuru iti thus te unto you yanam knowledge akyatam described guhyat confidential guhyataram still more confidential maya by me vimnesya by deliberation etat that assasana fully yata as you ichasi you like tata that kuru perform. Translation. Thus I have explained to you the most confidential of all knowledge. Deliberate on this fully and then do what you wish to do. Purport. The Lord has already explained in Arjuna to Arjuna the knowledge of Brahma Bhuta, one who is in the Brahma Bhuta condition is joyful. He never laments, nor does he desire anything. That is due to confidential knowledge. Krishna also discloses knowledge of the super soul, that is also Brahman, knowledge of Brahman, but it is superior. Here Lord Krishna tells Arjuna that he can do as he chooses. God does not interfere with the little independence of the living entity. In Bhagavad Gita, the Lord has explained in all respects how one can elevate his living condition. The best advice imparted to Arjuna is to surrender to the super soul seated within his heart. By right discrimination, one should agree to act according to the order of super soul. That will help one become situated constantly in Krishna consciousness, the highest perfectional stage of human life. Arjuna is being directly ordered by the personality of Godhead to fight. Surrender to the supreme of personality of Godhead is in the best interest of the living entities. It is not for the interest of the supreme before surrendering. One is free to deliberate on the subject as far as the intelligence goes. That is the best way to accept the instruction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Such instruction comes also through the spiritual master, the bona fide representative of Krishna. Text 64. Sarva guhyatamam bhuya srunu me paramam vacha istosi me dhradamti tato vaksyayam te hitam. Sarva guhyatamam, the most confidential. Bhuya, again. Srinu, just hear. Me, from me. Paramam, the supreme. Vaka, instruction. Ista asi, you are very dear to me. Dridam, very. Iti thus. Tata, therefore. Vaksyami, speaking. Te, for your. Hitam, benefit. Translation. Because you are my very dear friend, I am speaking to you the most confidential part of knowledge. Hear this from me, for it is for your benefit. The purport. The Lord has given Arjuna confession knowledge of the super soul within everyone's heart, and now he's giving the most confessional part of this knowledge. Just surrender unto the supreme of personal Godhead. And the end of the ninth chapter, he has said, just always think of me. The same instruction is repeated here to stress the essence of the teaching of Bhagavad Gita. This essence is not understood by common men, but by one who is actually very dear to Krishna, a pure devotee of Krishna. This is the most important instruction in all Vedic literature. What Krishna is saying in this connection is the most essential part of knowledge, and it should be carried out not only by Arjuna but by all living entities. Text 65. Man mana bhava mat bhakto mat imam namaskuru mam evasyasi satyatam de pradichana jane priyosimi. Man mana, thinking of me. Bhava, just become. Mat bhakta, my devotee. Mat yat, my worshipper. Mam, unto me. Namaskuru, offer your obeisance. Mam, unto me. Eva, certainly. Esyasi, come. Satyam, truly. Te, to you. Pradijane, I promise. Priya, dear. Asi, you are. Me, my. Translation. Always think of me and become my devotee. Worship me and offer your homage unto me. Thus you will come to me without fail. I promise you this because you are my very dear friend. Purport. The most confidential knowledge, part of knowledge is that one should become a pure devotee of Krishna and always think of him and act for him. One should not become an official meditator. Life should be so molded that one will one will always have the chance to think of Krishna. One should always act in such a way that all his daily activities are in connection with Krishna. He should arrange his life in such a way that through the 24 hours he cannot but think of Krishna. And the Lord's promise is that anyone who is in such pure Krishna consciousness will certainly return to the abode of Krishna, where he will be engaged in the association of Krishna face to face. This most confidential part of knowledge is spoken to Arjuna because he is the dear friend of Krishna. Everyone who follows the path of Arjuna can become a dear friend to Krishna and obtain the same perfection as Arjuna. This verse says that one should concentrate his mind upon Krishna, the very form with two hands carrying a flute, the bluish boy with a beautiful face, and a peak of feathers in his hair. There are descriptions of Krishna found in the Brahma Samhita and then other literatures. One should fix his mind on his original form of Godhead, Krishna. He should not even divert his attention to other forms of the Lord. The Lord has multi-forms as Vishnu, Narayana, Rama, Varaha, etc. But devotee should concentrate his mind on the form of that was present before Arjuna. Concentrating of the mind on the form of Krishna constitutes the most confidential part of his knowledge. And this is disclosed in Arjuna because Arjuna is the most dear friend of Krishna's. Text 66. Sarvadhamam dharmam parityajya mamekam saranam vrajya aham tvam sarvopapiyo moksayasyasmi musuka. Masuka. Sarvadharmam. All varieties of religion. Padyaya. Abandoning. Mam. Unto me. Ekam. Only. Saranam. Surrender. Raja. Okay. Go. Aham. I. Tvam. You. Sarva. All. Papitya. From sinful reactions. Moksayasyasmi. Deliver. Ma. Not. Sukha. Worry. Translation. Abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. I shall deliver you from all sinful reaction. Do not fear. Purport. The Lord has described various kinds of knowledge and process of religion, knowledge of the Supreme Brahman, knowledge of the Super Soul, knowledge of the different types of orders and statuses of life, social life. Knowledge of the renounced order of life, knowledge of the non-attachment, sense and mind control, meditation, etc. He has described in so many ways different types of religion. Now, in summarizing Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says that Arjuna should give up all the processes that have been explained to him. He should simply surrender to Krishna. That surrender will say him from all kinds of sinful reactions. For the Lord personally promises to protect him. In the eighth chapter, it was said that only one who has become free from all sinful reactions can take to the worship of Lord Krishna. Thus, one may think that unless he is free from all sinful reactions, he cannot take to the surrendering process. To such doubts, it is here said that even if one is not free from all sinful reactions, simply by the process of surrendering into Sri Krishna, he is automatically freed. There is no need of strenuous effort to free oneself from sinful reactions. One should unnecessarily accept Krishna as the supreme savior of all entities. With faith and love, one should surrender unto him. According to the devotional process, one should simply accept such religious principles that will lead ultimately to the devotional service of the Lord. One may perform a particular occupational duty according to his position in the social order, but if by executing his duty one does not come to the point of Krishna consciousness, all his activities are in vain. Anything that does not lead to the perfectional stage of Krishna consciousness should be avoided. One should be confident that in all circumstances Krishna will protect him from all difficulties. There's no need of thinking how one should keep the body and soul together. Krishna will see to that one should always think of himself helpless and should consider Krishna the only basis for his progress in life. As soon as one seriously engages himself with devotional service to the Lord in full Krishna consciousness, at once he becomes freed from all contamination of material nature. There are different processes of religion and purificatory process by cultivation of knowledge, meditation in mystic yoga system, etc. But one who surrenders unto Krishna does not have to execute so many methods. This that simply surrendered unto Krishna will save him from unnecessarily wasting time. One can thus make all progress at once and be freed from all sinful reaction. One should be attacked by the beautiful vision of Sri Krishna. His name is Krishna because he is all attractive. One who becomes attracted by the beautiful, all powerful, omnipotent vision of Krishna is fortunate. There are different kinds of transcendentalists. Some of them are attached to the impersonal Brahman vision, some of them are attracted by the supersoul feature, etc. But one who is attracted to the personal feature of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and above all, one who is attracted by the Supreme Personality of Godhead as Krishna himself, is the most perfect. Transcendentalist. In other words, devotional services to Krishna in full consciousness is the most confidential part of knowledge. And this is the essence of the whole Bhagavad Gita. Karma yogis, empirical philosophers, mystics, and devotees are all called transcendentalists. But one who is pure devotee is the best of all. The particular words used here, Mahasuka, don't fear, don't hesitate, don't worry, are very significant. One may be perplexed as to how one can give up all kinds of religious forms and simply surrender to Krishna, but such worry is useless. Hare Krishna Prabhu, can someone read, please? My mom is calling me.
Okay, thank you so much, Prabhu. Okay, who wants to read the last verses? I think there is few, or we have many. We cannot read the last verses. Okay, thank you so much, Prabhu. I think we'll continue tomorrow from this part. There is too many verses.
Sorry, Prabhu. Thank you so much. Okay, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Jai Shri Prabhupada. Well, we left in 67. Okay, now let's read Shikshastakam prayers. Yaribol Cheto Darpanamarjanam Bhavamaha Davagninirvapanam Shreyah Kairavachandrika Vitaranam Vidyavadu Jivanam Anandam Bhutivardhanam Pradipadam Purnamritasvadanam Sarvatma Snapanam Param Vijayate Sri Krishna Sankirtanam.
रामनामकारि बहुधा निज सर्वशक्तिश्चत्रार्पिता नियमिता स्मरणेन काला एतादृशी तव कृपा भगवन् ममापि दुर्दैवम् ईदृशं याचानि नानुरागः तृणादपि च नीचन तरोरपि सहिष्णुना अमानिन मान्देन कीर्तनीय सदा न धनं न जनं न सुन्दरं कवितां वा जगदीश कामं जन्मनि जन्मनीश्वर भवतात् भक्तिरहेतुके त्वयि ऐनन्दतञ्जकिङ्करं पतितं मां विस्मये भवां बुधो कृपया तव पादपङ्कजं सितधूलि सदृशं विचिन्तय नयनं गरदश्रुधारया वदनं गद्गदुदया गिरपुलकनिश्चितं वपुकदा तव नाम ग्रहणे भविष्यति युगायतं निमिषेण चक्षुषा प्रविशायतं शून्यायतं जगत्सर्वं गोविन्दविरहणमे आश्लिष्य पादतं विनष्टमं यदृशन्मतं करोतु वा यथा तथा वा विधातु लम्पतो मत्प्राणनाथस्तु सर्वनापः
Translation: Glory to the Sri Krishna Sankirtan, which cleanses the heart of all the dust accumulated for years and extinguishes the fire of conditional life of repeated birth and death. This Sankirtan movement is the prime benediction for humanity at large because it spreads the rays of the benediction moon. It is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss and it enables us to fully taste the nectar for which we are always anxious.
O my Lord, your holy name alone can render all benediction to human beings, and thus you have hundreds and millions of names like Krishna and Govinda. In these transcendental names, you have invested all your transcendental energies. There are not even hard and fast rules for chanting these names. O my Lord, out of kindness, you enable us to easily approach you by your holy names. But I am so unfortunate that I have no attraction for them. One should chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than the straw in the street. One should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer all respect to others. In such a state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. O Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor do I desire beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. I only want your causeless devotional service, birth after birth.
O son of Maharaj Nanda Krishna, I am your eternal servitor. Somehow or other I have fallen into the ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from this ocean of death and place me as one of the atoms at your lotus feet.
O my Lord, when will my eyes be decorated with tears of love flowing constantly when I chant your holy name? When will my voice choke up? And when will the hairs of my body stand on end at the recitation of your name? O Govinda, feeling your separations, I am considering a moment to be like 12 years or more. Tears are flowing from my eyes like torrents of rain, and I am feeling all vacant in the world in your absence. I know no one but Krishna is my Lord, and he shall remain so, even if he handles me roughly by his embrace or makes me broken-hearted by not being present before me. He is completely free to do anything and everything, for he is always my worshipful Lord unconditionally.
Tribol, Sri Sixastakam Ki Jai.
Jai.
10 offenses to the holy name. Oh, 1 second. Let's open the other one. Bahujanma kare yadi Shravana Kirtan, Tabutana Paya Krishna Pade Premadan. If one is infested with the 10 offenses in the chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, despite his endeavor to chant the holy name for many births, he will not get the love of God. That is the ultimate goal of this chanting. The 10 offenses to the holy name are as follows. First offense, to blaspheme the devotees who have dedicated their lives for propagating the holy name of the Lord.
To consider the holy names of demigods like Lord Shiva, Lord Brahma to be equal to or independent of the name of Lord Vishnu. Third, to disobey the orders of the spiritual master. Fourth, to blaspheme the Vedic literature or literature in pursuance of the Vedic version. Fifth, to consider the glories of chanting Hare Krishna to be imagination. Sixth, to give some interpretation on the holy name of the Lord. 7. To commit sinful activities on the strength of the holy name of the Lord. 8. To consider chanting of Hare Krishna one of auspicious ritualistic activities offered in the Vedas as spiritual activities, karma kanda. 9. To instruct a faithless person about the glories of the holy name. 10. To not have complete faith in the chanting of the holy names and to maintain material attachments even after understanding so many instructions on this matter. It is also an offense to be inattentive while chanting. Every devotee who claims to be a Vaishnava must carefully guard against these offenses in order to quickly achieve desired success. Krishna Prema.
Let us offer humble obeisances unto all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord. They can fulfill the desires of everyone just like desire trees, and they are full of compassion for the fallen conditioned souls. Vancha kalpatarupyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patanam pavane. The Gaudiya Vaishnava ki jai, Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Gaura Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. Thank you so much, dear devotees. Thank you, Prasanna Prabhu.
Haribol, Haribol. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Sing the last prayer. See you again tomorrow.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Gaura Shakti Prabhu, for giving the Zoom.
Hare Krishna.
Jai Shri Prabhupada.